Right now on IMF Today, the AI revolution and what it means for the global economy.
A recent IMF study shows that artificial intelligence could affect up to 40% of jobs across the world.
Just what is it about AI that makes it such a transformational technology? And how can we use the innovation to improve productivity and growth?
And some have even argued that it could be at the scale of the Industrial Revolution.
I mean, it's exciting because the whole world is focused on the power of AI and what it can do across a broad spectrum of domains, not just science, medicine, everyday life.
Hello and welcome to IMF Today. I'm Amanda Walker. Now, AI, two letters that immediately conjure up images of sci-fi movies where robots rule. But AI is already a reality today. We're living with it. ChatGPT is assisting with writing and innovations in art and design. AI can enable personalized shopping, self-driving cars. It can even help detect fraud and manage economic risk. Looking ahead, AI could boost productivity while also increasing income and wealth inequality. High-income and high-skill workers may also face disruptions. Recent IMF research estimates that almost 60% of jobs in advanced economies, 40% in emerging markets, and 26% in low-income countries could be affected by AI. But not all jobs are going to be affected in the same way. While AI may replace some roles, other occupations may be complemented by artificial intelligence. Some roles may not be significantly impacted. Other roles are likely to blend well with AI, possibly bringing productivity and wage gains, while some jobs may be in less demand. Joining me now is Marina Mendes Tavares, an economist in the IMF's research department and one of the authors of a recent staff discussion note on AI. Marina, thank you for joining us on IMF Today. So we're talking a lot about potential gains and benefits of AI. When are we going to see them and feel them?
First, thank you for having me. The short answer is that we don't know yet. The degree and the speed of AI adoption is still very uncertain. But let me tell you a little bit what we know about AI exposure across countries. We use this task-based framework where we look at the occupation as a bundle of tasks. And what is interesting is that researchers have already identified which tasks overlap with AI capabilities. So we look at the distribution of these occupations across countries in the world to find which countries have more potential to AI to increase their productivity. And we find, as you show, that advanced economies have a large share of workers with this potential, exposed to AI 6%, emerging markets 40%, and low-income countries 20%. We move a little bit deep in our work and we look really at the characteristics of these workers. For example, what is the degree of responsibility that you have in your job? What is the skills needed? Where is this job located? Is it done inside? Is it done outside? And these help us to identify which of the jobs are going to see a larger increase in productivity. And overall, we find that half of the jobs from the 40% globally may experience an increase in their productivities, while the other half may be negatively impacted.
So you touched on the fact that there are different parts of the world at different rates here, and to have AI, you need that kind of solid, pre-existing digital foundation. So when we're talking about these emerging markets and developing economies, what do those governments need to do to be able to start utilizing what AI can offer?
Yes, so what we have done here at the fund to really help policymakers is we develop a new index. It's called the AI Preparedness Index, and it helps policymakers to look for their strengths and the weakness that the countries have. We look at 4 areas. One, infrastructure. The second one is human capital and labor markets mobility. Third one is innovation. And fourth one, ethics and regulation. And what we find is that advanced economies in general are more prepared than emerging market and developing economies. And the emerging market and developing economies is still really to invest in these foundational AIs. What are there? It's really infrastructure to increase the access and also make the internet more affordable. Also invest in human capital to really increase the pool of workers that have the skills to adopt AI and also to be able to develop AI in their own countries for their own needs.
So equity is a big focus. What can be done to make sure that all workers benefit from AI?
Yeah, so our workers showed that AI may increase income inequality. And there are 2 main reasons for that. One is that the high-skilled workers, high-income workers, they are more likely to be complement AI, to experience these gains from productivity. On the other hand, also we know that the use of AI can really increase the profit of firms, right? And increase the capital income that's really concentrated at the top. However, because we are in this early stage of the access of this technology, there is still a lot of room for policymakers to take action now. So first, they need to think about their tax system, the capital and labor income tax, to make sure that these gains of AI are equally distributed and not concentrated at the top. Second, they need to think about the human aspect, to retrain and train the workforce to be able to benefit from these jobs that are gonna increase, and also to, during this transition and reallocation across jobs of new jobs and jobs that are maybe negatively affected, to really strengthen the social safety net. By doing that, we can make sure that AI is really gonna support society inclusive and not just few.
Okay, so much opportunity and so much challenge. Thank you so much, Marina, for joining us.
Thank you.
This morning, the managing director held a press briefing to talk about her global policy agenda. And AI is, of course, a big part of it.
Intelligence already upon us. Coordination on global rules is as important as having the technology and the skills to tap into it.
Last month, the managing director gave a speech at Cambridge, the home of Alan Turing. The university is using AI to assist in its climate change research, and it's giving them the power to do things they've never done before.
It's both exciting and worrying because we have this urgent crisis in biodiversity worldwide right now. One of the huge problems in the world's natural data is how sparse it is. So one of the big uses of AI is trying to extract understanding from a very limited set of data in such a way that we can then interpolate and figure out where some of the blind spots are in the world that we need to do more work in. And so we tend to use AI to gather lots and lots of big data from all over the world. We then try to normalize that into what are known as models that can be used to query parts of the world where we might not have that many sightings.
And while the advancements in scientific study are opening new doors, there are concerns that some countries may get left behind.
With digital in particular, you can leapfrog. So if you're a second mover in digital technologies, look at telephony, for example, in Africa. In the telco market, African countries have really got second mover advantage. So there is a danger of being left behind, but there's also a huge potential for digital technologies to allow Africa to catch up economically and even overtake. Take Morocco, for example. We have a large number of really bright, talented young minds who can grasp AI. You're not shackled with legacy and you can look to the future. So as long as we make sure we're investing in the infrastructures in Africa, I think this is a great leveler if we do things right. But we have to invest, and Africa has to join up and become more cohesive in how it deploys new technologies.
Now, one country in Africa that's been very focused on the transformative potential of AI is Rwanda. Just last year, Rwanda released a national AI policy aimed at positioning the country as a global innovator for responsible and inclusive AI. In developing this roadmap, the Rwandan government received support from the Rwanda Centre for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. I'm very pleased to have the organisation's managing director, Rugege, here on IMF today. Crystal, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we're hearing a lot of talk about the need for infrastructure in Africa so that Africa doesn't get left behind. You took part in the New Economy Forum on AI this week. That was a hot topic. Tell me from your perspective, how do we make sure Africa doesn't get left behind?
Sure. Thanks again for having me. So, in the case of Rwanda, we have been very driven by innovation, and in part because of our difficult history rebuilding the country from scratch over the last 30 years. And so one of the areas that they were very ambitious and focused on was digital infrastructure. And so what we've seen now in terms of Rwanda's readiness for the AI revolution that we're seeing is, that investment in digital infrastructure. Now we're at 97% broadband coverage, for instance. They've invested in attracting world-class institutions like Carnegie Mellon University offering AI master's degrees. They've deployed thousands of digital ambassadors to really meet people at the bottom of the pyramid to give them those basic digital literacy skills that they need. And so, it's been a combination of that kind of hard infrastructure as well as soft infrastructure that they've used to get them ready to fully participate in the AI economy.
So 97% broadband. I mean,
coverage, yes.
Coverage. That's pretty amazing.
So there's still a usage gap,
right.
and so we're again playing our part to make sure that people understand the value of the phones that they have in their hands and the data that can be unlocked, in terms of products and services.
So the building blocks are going in, very
Yes.
much so, it sounds like. Do you feel that Rwanda is ready to embrace AI? Are there enough building blocks?
Yes. Yeah, so I think that there's still some way to go. I mentioned that there's still a usage gap in terms of internet, adoption. But in terms of, Rwanda's kind of posture towards AI, it's very optimistic. And I think beyond just embracing it, they're really focused on how do we harness these economic opportunities to accelerate the agenda that they've had in place for some time, where ICT and digital technologies were really at the heart of it. You mentioned the national AI policy. That was an important building block. And another important building block would be the law that was recently passed on the protection of personal data and privacy. We know that protecting people's rights in the midst of this, digital world is really a fundamental governance, instrument that needs to be in place. And so these are some of the foundational elements that have been put in place. And one other area where Rwanda, has kind of been seen as this leader on the continent. And so we have been trying to play our role in convening the different stakeholders on the African continent and have a common vision and common approach to how we're embracing AI. So our center will be hosting the first high-level AI summit, bringing together leaders from, heads of state, ministers, business leaders, those that are in Africa and those who are interested in being a partner, for Africa, and really having a focused conversation on how AI can shape the future of Africa and not widen the inequality that we've seen.
So we talk a lot, don't we, here about policy and technology and innovation, but what does this mean for people?
Yeah.
How does this change lives in Rwanda, and how does your organization try and propel that?
Yeah, sure. So we're already using AI in a number of sectors, but maybe one recent use case that I can point to is in the healthcare sector. So Rwanda, has always kind of invested in those frontline health workers. They have about 75,000 community health workers. And one of the areas that we've been trying to see that AI could really tip the scale in terms of enhancing their expertise, or giving them access to, expertise, as well as increasing their productivity. So we've been piloting a large language model in the local language, Kinyarwanda. And what we saw is that initially when they started this pilot, it did not understand the language at all. And now we're at about 70%, and so this is something that will reach people, all across the country. We have these community health workers that are deployed across every district. Yeah.
So how, when you look ahead and you kind of reach a point where you say, yeah, AI is established and it is making people's lives better, what does that look like in terms of how people are living?
Yeah, so I think that, AI is a tool or it's a weapon. I think Brad Smith of Microsoft, has used this phrase. And so I think for us, it's making sure that AI is adding value to the common person, and in the case of, emerging economies like Rwanda, that is the majority of our population. So when it's in the hands of the majority of our population and it's adding value to their lives and they're able to access skills and expertise and it's bringing wealth into communities, I think that's where we can say that we've made an achievement.
And if you could offer advice to the many countries who are here who are not where Rwanda is on AI, what would be your kind of golden piece of advice?
So I think we're still on a journey, but I think we can certainly share lessons. But I think, excuse me, one area I think is data. Really harnessing the data that we already have in our economy. We're a mobile-first continent. So when you think about all of the data that is flowing through that mobile ecosystem that we can already harness, this is not something that we have to wait for, that we can certainly empower the existing, innovation communities. There's so many young innovators on the continent that are trying to, take part in this. And so if we can help level the playing field for that existing ecosystem by unlocking access to data, I think that's one area I would suggest that they focus on, and it's one area that we're also focusing on, but we're still on that journey. And the other area in terms of leveling the playing field, there are things like access, to data, public data sets that are out there that could be structured, of course secured, but could open up so many different opportunities for these young innovators. The other is the cost of data itself, the cost of compute power. These are areas where if we're able to bring in partnerships from the private sector, from the philanthropies, I think that we could help level the playing field so we can take part now and we're not always playing catch up.
It's really interesting stuff. Crystal, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
AI was the topic of one of this week's New Economy Forum sessions, and around the building it seems that everyone has something to say about it.
There are huge prospects to accelerate research, scientific discoveries.
AI is used as an adjunct tool for the analysts, right? Large language models, it's really coming on stream and it helps.
I don't think the future is going to be that much different. I mean, we've had technology, we've had internet for years, and 5 years from now, probably we'll have, a bit more ease with some things.
Do you think people should be concerned about AI taking over their jobs?
No, I think there's a natural efficiency dynamic that's going to take place over time, but consider all the new jobs that will be created, in a knowledge economy.
Jobs that women do, which is jobs around care, teaching, all of those jobs, AI
that need a human.
Yeah, AI can't do those.
Best case scenario that we manage to harness the benefits of AI as well as managing the risks.
I think we should, around its ethics, we should be asking more questions around how ethical it is, how, it's not going to be abused.
So we have to have also the other technologies that will balance, that will check and balance, the AI to use it more responsibly.
And AI is everywhere. This afternoon's global debate with the managing director will also be tackling the topic. And at 2:15, we have our governor talk with the Minister of Economy and Finance of Paraguay. Then tomorrow, it's the last of our regional economic outlook press briefings. There is also the IMF plenary, followed by a press briefing from the IMFC chair and managing director. And our last seminar is on capital flows and growth. Now, we'll be coming to you at a slightly later time tomorrow to wrap up this week of the meetings. Join us at 3 p.m. as we speak with the Director of the IMF Strategy, Policy and Review Department and the Communications Director for their take on how the weeks went. I'm Amanda Walker. Thank you for joining us. We leave you now with a look at the best images from the last 24 hours. you.